Prabodha Chintamani, 50 Reflections on Morals, MahAmahOpAdhyAya, VidwAn, Dr. K.G.SubrAya, SharmAji. In this, we have seen 24 lessons. Today's is 25th. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಕೃಷ್ಣಮೂರ್ತಿ ಶಾಸ್ತ್ರಿ ದಂಬೆ ಪುಣಚ ಬಂಟ್ವಾಳ ತಾಲೂಕು ದಕ್ಷಿಣ ಕನ್ನಡ ಜಿಲ್ಲೆ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಭಾರತ. ಆ್ಯಕ್ಷನ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದಿ ಯೋಗ ಆಫ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಷನ್. Action refers to the activities of the body, its limbs, speech and mind. Everyone is necessarily engaged in some action at all times. Not only humans, but all living beings are always doing something. None can stay even for a moment without action. This is what the Bhagavad Gita says, 3:5. Nahi kaschit kshanamapi jatu tishtati akarma krit. There is no need to advise anyone to perform action. What is needed is advice on how to act. How to act in such a way as not to create bondage for the future. How to act so that actions can help us cross the ocean of samsara and realize our own true nature. This is what Karma Yoga, the yoga of action, is all about. Yoga means union. So, Karma Yoga is that which helps unite us with God. Karma Yoga is action that is performed in the spirit of surrender to God. As it is said, Karomi yadyat sakalam parasmai narayanaayeti samarpayami. Actions performed with the idea that I am the doer and in search of fruits of the action create bondage. Actions performed in the spirit of surrender to God help liberate us from bondage. This is Karma Yoga. In action, there is burden. In Karma Yoga, there is lightness. Actions performed with devotion, without craving for the fruit, and without a sense of doership constitute Karma Yoga. Ordinary actions as well as actions performed as Karma Yoga involve effort, time, and decay. Ordinary actions are associated with desire and aversion and lead to sorrow and delusion. Karma Yoga, on the other hand, purifies our minds and brings joy and peace. Next, 26th lesson. No one is destitute. Human beings are normally classified as male and female. This is God's creation. Those born as men or women live their whole lives as men or women. Each person lives and dies as per his predetermined destiny. There is no one avoiding that. There is a similar distinction established by man, the distinction between those who are rich and strong versus those who are poor and weak. Some are endowed with grand mansions, vehicles, etc. Others are destitute. Unlike God's creation, however, those who are rich today may become poor tomorrow. Those poor today may be rich tomorrow. Therefore, in Vedanta, all human beings are seen as well endowed. None is a destitute. Being well endowed is not a matter of possessing gold or property or vehicles only. Some may have wealth, others have health or learning or intelligence. From a spiritual viewpoint, all humans are well endowed. Isn't the body itself a great wealth for humans? Compare the capacities of a human body with that of an animal. There was once a poor person in a town who went begging from house to house, saying, I am destitute, I am a sinner, I am helpless, please give me some food and money. When he went to a house of a rich person, he was told, you are not at all destitute, see how healthy and well built you are. You are better endowed than I am. This opened the eyes of the poor person to his own capacity to better himself. All human beings are endowed with fine bodies or minds or energies. No human being is destitute. So, this is a 26th lesson. 27. 3 gates to hell. Our scriptures tell us that meritorious actions lead to heaven, sinful actions to hell, and a mixture of both types of actions leads us to be born as human beings. Heaven and hell are said to lie beyond death and no one has actually seen them. So, why bother about them? Why not focus our attention on the experience of heaven and hell in our daily lives, here and now? Those who strive for heaven are indeed a resolute people, and those who are determined to avoid hellish experience are even more resolute. What do we mean by hell? A place where we experience all kinds of sorrow, where we do not see any contentment or joy or happiness, where we suffer from anxiety and purposelessness, The Bhagavad Gita 16:21 tells us that there are three main gateways to this kind of hellish experience. Trividham narakasyedam dwaram nashanamatmanah kamah krodhastatha lobhah tasmadetat tyajet. Desire, anger, and greed, three vices, are the three gates to hell, three enemies. A wise spiritual speaker, a wise spiritual seeker would definitely wish to eliminate these vices, these enemies, from his personality. Desire is the force of craving and all consuming as a forest fire born out of ignorance of our real nature. Anger is the all destroying force that takes away our good sense and brings untold sorrows and misery to ourselves and others. Greed is a force that knows no contentment and the acme of selfishness and the sign of narrow mindedness. These are the three gates to hell. By avoiding them, we can live happy and contented lives. Next, 28. Sacrifice gives bliss. The very word sacrifice invokes fear. Many people are allergic to sacrifice, charity, or duty. They are unwilling to part with their hard earned wealth by giving to others. They question why it is desirable to give in charity. Instead of attempting to answer them, let us consult the scriptures. Their message is clear. It is by sacrifice alone that one can gain peace, happiness, immortality. त्यागे नैके अमृतत्वमानशुः तेन त्यक्तेन भुञ्जीथाः त्यागात् शान्तिः नास्ति त्यागसमं सुखं त्यागादेव परा शान्तिः त्यागो हि परमं सुखं. Sacrifice involves letting go, sharing, giving away. These are natural tendencies not only among humans but also animals and birds. It is well known that birds and animals share their food with their young ones. Trees scatter their flowers and fruits. Plants offer grains. Then, why is it that sacrifice creates fear in the hearts of humans? Isn't sacrifice one way of helping others? Wouldn't such sacrifice actually make one happier? As Swami Vivekananda has said, it is rather the giver who is more blessed than the taker. परोपकाराय फलन्ति वृक्षाः परोपकाराय वहन्ति नद्यः परोपकाराय दुहन्ति गावः परोपकाराय सतां विभूतयः. Trees flower to serve others. Rivers flow to serve others. Cows yield milk to serve others. The talents of good people are indeed meant for the service of others. It is through sacrifice alone that one can gain bliss, peace, and contentment. Next, 29th. No wealth beats knowledge. There are hundreds of kinds of wealth in this world, and all of them are worth striving for. Knowledge, intelligence, health, long life, property, beauty, power, fame, home, spouse, children, etc. etc. Which of these is undesirable? All are welcome. Although no one person is accomplished enough to have all of them. One form of wealth, however, deserves a special effort on our part, that is knowledge. By the grace of Ishvara and the Sadguru, gaining knowledge should be our highest priority. Lord Sri Krishna, the all-knowing Guru of the entire world, says in the Bhagavad Gita 4:38, Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitramiha vidyate. This means that there is nothing more valuable than knowledge in all the 14 worlds of the universe. What a striking statement it is. The purpose of human birth is to gain knowledge. It is through knowledge alone that everything else can be achieved. Without knowledge, man is no more than a two-legged animal. A life lacking knowledge is dry and purposeless. Swagrihe pujyate murkha, swagrame pujyate prabhu, swarashtre pujyate raja, vidwan sarvatra pujyate. A man of knowledge gains the highest respect all over the world. So, let us master knowledge and the art of living. With knowledge, we find peace and happiness. There is no wealth that beats knowledge. Next, 30th. Greed brings misery. All living beings need some basic necessities to sustain life. For humans, this includes some food to eat, clothes to protect the body, and shelter. These are basic needs, and wanting them is quite understandable. However, there is another category of wants, that is those based on greed that are impossible to fill. Although the basic needs are met, wanting more and more is a sin of greed. Needs automatically have a limit, but greed has no limit at all. Excessive wants bring a train of sorrows and leave no room for happiness even in one's dreams. There was once a poor person who did severe tapas and meditated on Ishvara. Pleased with this meditation, Ishvara appeared before him and offered him a boon. The aspirant asked to be granted more wealth. Ishvara agreed and sent him to a devotee who was very rich. The rich man welcomed the poor man with the open arms and took him to his treasury, which contained piles of valuable coins. The rich person invited him to pick up and leave with anything he liked, but set a time limit of 60 minutes, after which he had to leave. The poor person picked up a pile of coins only to be attracted to another pile that was more valuable. This happened repeatedly, and he could not resist the temptation to abandon the pile he had and draw from another pile that was more valuable. All of a sudden, the time was up, bell rang, and the man was still empty handed. He left with nothing, feeling sorry that he was cheated by his own greed. Next, 31st lesson, use life well. Of all the 8.4 million species of beings, human birth is the most fortunate, endowed with great strength and intelligence. This two-legged animal has conquered land, sea, and air, can cross vast oceans to reach distant lands, can extract minerals from the depths of the seas. Such an extraordinary being can surely transform the earth. By studying the scriptures and practicing spiritual disciplines, he can master the universe. He can eradicate poverty and disease. He can create a heaven on earth. There is absolutely nothing impossible for him to attain. After all, he is the child of Almighty God, isn't it? All that is true. But one must remember that whatever man wants to do, he must do while he is still alive. Death brings a sudden end to all ambition and all achievement. A human corpse is banished from its own home. A dead chicken, goat, or fish can be sold by weight. The skin of dead wild animals has value. Dry tree branches are collected, but a human corpse or dead body has no use whatsoever. Therefore, a wise person does not postpone the practice of dharma and charity and embarks on spiritual study while he is still living. That is like grihita iva kesheshu mrityuna dharmamacharet. That is, we should practice dharma thinking that Yama is pulling us towards death. Kenopnishat warns thus, Iha ched avedi datha satyamasti. So, every moment is reducing our lifespan. We have to think like that, and we have to do the good deeds here and now only, because we don't know when we cease to live. If one understands the true nature in this very life, then one's being born as a human becomes meaningful. Self improvement must happen before death calls. One can serve society only while one is alive. A wise person recognizes the need to use life well. This is the 31st lesson. Next, 32nd, happiness is within. Happiness, bliss, peace, tranquility, ease, rest, calmness. These are such delightful words. In Sanskrit, the word for happiness is sukham, which means that state in which our senses are joyful, peaceful, and content. Who does not wish for such a delightful state of mind? From morning to night, from youth to old age, all our actions are aimed at securing happiness. It's only in search of happiness that we acquire wealth, houses, ornaments, power, vehicles, medicines, spouse, and children. All through life, there is a search for happiness. But which rich and powerful person has found real happiness? We believe that although we have not yet found happiness, we will soon do so. Is not this a great puzzle? What has gone wrong? What kind of Maya is this? We do not really have even a vestige of happiness. It is worth remembering that happiness is not for sale. Then, How is happiness to be found? It is to be found within ourselves by right understanding. Happiness is a state of mind. It is within us. Happiness cannot be purchased in shops. Happiness can easily be experienced by one and all. Happiness is a natural state of mind. Happiness is in our minds, within us. It is our nature. With right understanding, each person is an embodiment of happiness, a treasure of house of bliss. With the right attitude, happiness is entirely in our control. By self knowledge, one can gain supreme happiness. There is no other way. Subraya Sharmaji tells. Next, 33rd lesson, be simple to become happy. Everyone seeks happiness. People strive hard for it, acquiring a property, a designer clothes, traveling in fine vehicles, and so on. Despite all these efforts, we all know that happiness is rarely found. Then, what is the solution? This is a valid question to which there is a beautifully simple answer. Only through simplicity can one find happiness. The simpler our lives are, the closer we are to happiness. It is very simple to become very happy, but alas, it is very difficult to become very difficult for people to become very simple. Modern urban existence is filled with artificiality, hypocrisy, show, pretense, insincerity, dishonesty, and so on. What people show to others is very different to what they really are. Think one thing and say another. Such is the hypocrisy. To be artificial or hypocritical requires much preparation. One has to plan what image to project. Not so in being natural and simple, without pretense or hypocrisy. In simplicity and straightforwardness, there is peace and natural bliss. This is true happiness. By living life simply, following one's destiny, it is possible to experience natural happiness all our lives. All the realized and enlightened noble personalities lived extremely happy through their simplest style of life. Simplest living and highest thinking makes every human ever happy and joyful. Next, the last one today. Mother Nature is our teacher. Curiosity is part of man's nature. Even a learned person remains a student all his life. There are so many topics to learn about, and there are schools and universities everywhere. To become a student in some universities, one has to pay large sums of money and expend huge effort. The result is an ability to earn big incomes, but such education rarely yields much real satisfaction. To master knowledge that has commercial value requires many prerequisites: right preparation, right environment, adequate funds, adequate time, etc. Not everyone can afford these. Not everyone can excel and earn a Nobel Prize either. Each is subject to his own destiny. Since only a rare few are fortunate enough to succeed in modern educational institutions, what is to become of the rest of the humanity? Where should the less intelligent and poorer segments of society learn? Who will teach them? For them, one needs an entirely different approach. Universe is the university. Nature is the teacher, man is the student, teaching is free, experience is the examination, and eternal happiness is the result. We can learn so many lessons from the nature that surrounds us: the sun, the moon, stars, rivers, seas, mountains, forests, day and night, the elements, plants, trees, etc. etc. In this University of Nature, there are no barriers to admission based on caste or creed. All can participate and benefit. By learning these lessons well, we can make our lives full of happiness and joy. Next, 35th one. This too is worship. Worshipping God or Guru in temples and ashramas is a common practice shared by all religious traditions, including Hindu, Christian, Buddhist, Islam, Jain, Zoroastrian, Sikh, etc. Each of the traditions has its own particular form of worship. That is fine. The one God who is almighty and all knowing is worshipped in many forms, as the Vedas proclaim. Ekam sad vipra bahuda vadanti. In the Hindu tradition, worship is given much importance. We think of worship as requiring a bath and clean clothes, applying ash or kumkum, reciting Vedic mantras in chaste Sanskrit, and making the prescribed offerings to a sanctified image of God. This is not the only way to worship God. It is wrong to think that worship necessarily requires Vedic mantras or offerings to an image of God. The Sanskrit word for God, Deva, literally means that which shines. So, any object that brings light and joy to our eyes and mind can be regarded as Deva. Plants and trees, sun and moon, rivers and lakes, children and sannyasis, all these are particular manifestations of God. Our love and service towards them is itself a form of worship. Meditating on the forms of God with a pure mind is even better than ostentatious worship of images of God. Demonstrating our love to those who are sick or in distress is true worship. Using our wealth, talents, or authority to help others is true worship. Instead of offering flowers, we offer love, compassion, sympathy. No one is barred from practicing these forms of worship. It is by such worship that God is truly pleased. This is the 35th one. Next, the last one, today's last one is the 36th one, the tenfold dharma. From 37th onwards, we shall see in the next session. In this session, this is the last one, 36th one, the tenfold dharma. Our scriptures are unanimous that our actions should be guided by our dharma. Dharma is God Himself, and it is only by dharma that the universe is sustained. Dharma has 10 features. Dhritihi, Kshama, Damosteyam, Shauchamindriya Nigraha, Dhir Vidya, Satyamakrodha, Dashakam Dharma Lakshanam. Dhriti, courage and fortitude. The ability to face with courage the ups and downs of life, such as happiness and sorrow, honor and insult, gain and loss. That is Dhriti. Kshama, forgiveness or endurance. The ability to easily forgive those who criticize us, accuse us falsely, insult us. Next, Dhamma Restraint, maintaining mental poise in all circumstances, being peaceful and contented. As Asteyam, non-stealing, viewing the possessions of others without envy or covetousness. Next, Shaucham, purity, maintaining a clean body, senses, mind, clothes, behavior, thoughts, etc. Next, sixth one, Indriya Nigraha, sense restraint, cultivating a sattvic attitude to all things and restraining our senses. Seventh one, Dhihi, clear thinking, Shuddha Buddhi, living with the discrimination, Viveka, and equipoise, Samatva. Eighth one, Vidya, learning, study of scriptures and gaining knowledge from the holy teachers. Ninth one, Satyam, truth, never uttering falsehood. Tenth one, Akrodha, no anger, restraining the anger that arises. Avoiding expressions of anger that are dysfunctional. These are the 10 phases of Dharma. Next we shall continue in the next session. Hare Rama, Shri Shri SubrAya Sharma Charana Ravinda Arpitamastu. Sarve Jana Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Tat Sat.